The movie we did this week is Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first Indiana Jones movie. If you haven't heard of Indiana Jones, he is an archaeologist slash college professor.
They've
And
never heard
basically
of
what
him.
he does, what?
They've never
Just
heard of
keep
him.
going, Cole. Don't let him.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
let him.
Basically what
No
he
one's
does
ever
in
heard of this movie.
basically what he does in every movie is he just finds some artifact and sells it to museums to get money and I guess to preserve it or whatever. Yeah, so this is the first movie. It kind of started everything. It stars Harrison Ford, directed by Steven Spielberg. The music is by John Williams. And I personally love this movie. This is one of my favorite movies as a kid. All three of the Indiana Jones movies, like the first ones, are all super good. And I really wanted to rewatch it to see if like it was all just what's the word? What's the word when you,
Nostalgia.
like yeah, nostalgia. Yeah. I wanted to see if it would like still hold up.
Do it hold up? Yeah.
And I think it definitely did for me at least. I'm gonna give it a 9.5. Because
Oh
the
my
only
God.
criticism I could give it is that I think it was a little long. I think they could have cut out some of the stuff in like the middle towards the end. But other than that, I think it does everything that it wants to do pretty much, like pretty perfectly. Like for a family movie, I think it's kind of hard to beat something like this, but that's my thoughts.
I don't even see how you consider it like a family movie. Like, there's a guy that gets chopped up in the blades at one point.
Yeah,
Fair.
like going into it, I thought it would be like a family movie, just based off of like the Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And it's actually surprisingly like kind of gory at times.
It was
Gnarly.
before it was really. Yeah, they do get shot in the face right in the beginning.
Yeah, Indy
I'll
doesn't give
give-
a crap about.
So what you go next?
I
I'll
don't know.
give my opinion since I started talking anyway. But I would say I kind of felt the same way. I don't think I've watched this since early high school, later middle school. But I definitely was happy to watch it. I really enjoyed it. But I would say the same thing. I was shocked when I saw it was 2 hours. I didn't remember it being that long. And my biggest complaint with this movie, and it might be because it's older, is the action scenes just kind of dragged on for me a lot. Like, it was just like the same thing going over. When it would like the movie was like going, like I was really into it. And there was fun action scenes, but a lot of them just kind of felt dragged on for me, especially because like they weren't very, I don't want to hate on it, but like they weren't like the most well choreographed fights. Like, they were fun, don't get me wrong, but it looked goofy for sure. So I mean, I still give it an 8. I'd say. Like, I love this movie. Like, it's just watching it back now as an adult, I definitely was like, oh, this probably could have been like an hour and a half, hour 40 had they just cut out some of like the longer action scenes. Like, for me specifically, the truck scene near the end, which I didn't even remember, which had good fun parts for me, where it was just guys kept coming in to the front, and Indiana had to keep fighting them out of the truck, which was funny,
That's
but
the
it
best
did
part.
go on for a while. But that's my opinion.
The one
I still
guy,
liked it.
the one guy falls
out
on
of 10,
top
Nate?
of the on the truck and like makes the pog face at Indiana and the driver, and they both like laugh at him. Like,
That's where the Wilhelm scream is. I was cracking up
Oh,
with
yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
What would you give it out of 10?
Oh, I said 8. I still really
8,
like
okay.
it. Like I said, I loved it when I was younger. It just felt a little long now. And maybe that's because I had seen it before, but it's dragged on a little for me.
I guess I'll go next.
go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, suck it.
Yeah,
Chris.
I would personally give this movie a 7 out of 10.
oh my god.
I think I've
Really?
given like every movie that, so
I
I feel,
would-
feel kind of weird, but
I
like
was really conflicted between 7 and 8, but I think I
This-
was like, I loved it so much when I was younger that I gave it the 8.
well, this is the first time I've ever seen it, so I'm like fully nostalgia proof. So yeah, I think that just some of the action is a little bit dated. I really liked a lot of it, but like specifically like the fist fighting, it seemed very like someone would swing and then they were waiting for the next beat, and then he would swing and they would be like standing with like their arms out to the side, not like up.
Yeah.
He would get hit and then he would be like waiting to get hit, like because he was supposed to.
Yeah.
There was some of
You see the
that.
cues.
No, that was
Yeah.
funny though. Like I
Yeah,
felt
it's
like that
always
was like
It's
intentional.
funny. It
I
doesn't
feel
take
like-
away from my enjoyment of the film, but I feel like that was just like one little thing that like when it happens so much, it's like, okay, like are they really fighting?
Sometimes I felt it wasn't intentional is the thing. Like, it felt intentional sometimes, and other times
It's
it felt...
just something that's dated. Like
Yeah.
they've just gotten so good at like
Choreographing.
fighting. This movie's like from what, 81?
Yeah, it's pretty old.
That's amazing.
I didn't
Yeah.
remember it being that old.
I really liked how this movie is straight up just like exactly like an Uncharted game. It is literally
Really?
like
Uncharted is exactly like Indiana
there,
Jones.
it is.
Let's get
I've
it-
heard
let's get
people
it
make
straight.
that.
up.
I've heard that people
That's the
make that
title of the video.
comparison before. It is
Sorry about
literally like toe to toe, like exactly like you go to like a tropical setting first, and you find one artifact that leads you to another clue that leads you to the big one, and it's all a race of like main character Nathan Drake and Indiana Jones know the most out of everybody, and there's like 2 other parties that have more resources and just follow one step behind you, and then it leads to a final fight at the end. It's literally like exactly
with
the same.
with a
Did I miss-
supernatural element to it.
Yeah, with a supernatural. Yeah. It's
Did
literally
I miss
like
the
down to a
Indiana
T.
Jones copied Uncharted joke, or can I say that?
That's what Sam just said.
I fucking missed it, damn it.
Well, I said it that way, but that is obviously not what I meant.
Yeah. I can't
but
believe
yeah,
it.
So I enjoyed it that way. I like how it's like a swashbuckling action movie. There's a lot of cool shit. Yeah,
Very
7 out
fun
of 10.
movie for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I had never seen any of the Indiana Jones movies going into this, but yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a good little movie. I'm sure, like having not having the context of every other action movie that came after it, it probably would, it would blow my mind if I was alive in 1981 or whenever this movie came out. The whole movie, I like my biggest complaint. The whole movie, I was waiting for Indiana Jones to slide under the thing as the door is like coming down, and him to reach back and grab his hat, because that's what I know about Indiana Jones, and it never happened. It
It's
never
the whip.
happened.
It's the whip.
Yeah,
in the
he
first
grabbed the
movie.
whip and not the hat.
He grabs
It
his
was like
hat
in the first movie.
in.
Is this
He
is
does
this
a
like
different
a
movie.
is this like a
It's a different
Mandela
movie.
effect?
No,
No, it's
no,
a different
that's in-
movie.
It's in the
I
second or
get
third
that. I
one.
obviously
He
there's more
does it-
movies,
I think
but
he
I was
does it
expecting it in
in-
this movie.
Something like that in multiple of them. I can't remember which
It's
one.
either the second or the third one.
I
don't
think it's the
remember.
second one, because that's the one. It's the Temple of Doom. They're in that. So I think that's the one where that happened.
Yeah. Anyways, like not having watched any of the Indiana Jones movies, I enjoyed this movie. Like it was good. I'm not somebody to go for halves in my ratings, but I'm gonna give it a 7.
But I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it anyways. I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Like this is a classic in every regard. Like I mentioned it, I think at the very tail end of the last episode, but this is probably the movie I've seen the most in my entire life. You know, when you're like 8 and you have a portable DVD player and a copy of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you're left to your own devices,
You're bound to act a fool.
you just watch it continuously over the course of like a year. So, but yeah, it absolutely holds up in every regard to me. It's just fun. Indiana Jones, I was reminded that he is not concerned about like being a good guy. He's just trying to get the fucking Ark, dude. He doesn't care about shooting people in the brain. Like,
Yeah, he
Indiana-
does it very early on.
Bad people.
yeah, he rules.
Yeah.
He
No,
kind of is concerned
well-
about being the good guy, right? Because he's not. He's like we have to make sure the museum gets to keep this. Like I need to be my professor. Like,
Well, he
does.
worries about
Preserving
securing
it.
the artifacts. Yeah, preserving the
Yeah, he doesn't-
artifacts.
He
and
doesn't
stuff.
care. He
That-
just shoots along.
No,
the
but
isn't-
that's the only thing I felt. That's the whole reason I felt like there were like Nazis. Like the reason why the opposition were Nazis
So
was
you
so
didn't
that it
hate
was
them.
so that it was okay
Yeah.
for Indiana Jones to kill.
That
Ren.
is a
Yeah.
big thing about it. Is this is like I think this is one of the earliest iterations of like depicting the big thing is like Steven Spielberg is Jewish. This is sort of like one of the earliest opportunities to like finally like poke fun at and like take the power away from
the Nazis.
within a movie. So like blast away at them, you know.
Oh.
I think even earlier, like there was like a show, like a TV show about like people being imprisoned in like an internment camp, and like all the Nazis are like total idiots. The name is escaping me, but like
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
I was reminded at the very end when the guy gets his head exploded and he's wearing like that like traditional like garb. It reminded me of, you know, that image of like it's like the pharaoh, but he's like
John-
a white guy.
Yeah,
I was literally thinking.
I
was
didn't.
thinking
I
about
didn't
making
know that
my
was him at
background.
first. I didn't know that was him at first. The French guy. What's his name?
Bellic.
What was it?
Bellic. It's Bellic, right?
Bellic. Yeah, it is Bellic. I didn't know that was him. I was like, who the hell is this guy? They just brought in to do
Yeah.
the prayer, and then like halfway, like right when he was about to die, I was like, wait a minute, this is a French guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so confused, like why he was even like what
was
he
the
like,
point of
saying
him
some
wearing
prayer or
that?
some shit.
I thought was he doing like an Egyptian prayer? Like, do they do
I
that?
think
I
it
think
was
it was supposed to be
Hebrew.
like a Jewish.
Yeah,
prayer
it's
movie.
a
Hebrew.
Hebrew prayer. But why was he wearing Egyptian garb then? Like,
Because he wanted to like have like a because he thought there was
because he looked cool. What do you mean?
he thought it was gonna be like a really like special like spiritual experience.
Fit was
Also,
fresh.
John, your answer is still as makes no sense with him wearing
Oh.
Egyptian pharaoh outfit.
No,
Bellic
no,
is
that didn't
very
make sense 'cause
ballsy.
It was
He
a
wasn't
ballsy
even
go
choice.
ahead.
he wasn't even one of the guys who was like, "Oh my god, you have to be careful opening this. It's gonna be the spirit." He was like one of the
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm a high class archaeologist. I'm here to do business."
Well, yeah,
And then
that's
he's like
financial
dressed up.
Well,
That's
no,
a- that's his
He
hubris.
did
His
earlier.
hubris is
He
getting
did
involved.
earlier say that it's like a something to God, didn't he? Like a communication device to God. Didn't
Yeah.
he say that? That was him, right?
Is that him?
So
Yeah,
he did know that it was religious, which his
Yeah,
character for me
obviously.
did make like a lot of weird turns throughout the movie. Where like like when he said like it was fun where they were like we're two sides of the same coin type thing. He's like, I'm just like you, which he is, but I'm in it for the money, and you could be the same way if you just did one thing different. And he's right. He pretty much is doing the same thing, except he's giving it to someone else. Where Indy wants to give it to the museums. He douchebag, I forgot his name immediately. Wants to give it to the Nazis because they want to pay him.
Bellic,
Bellic
yeah.
wants
Yeah,
to give
they'll
it
pay
to
him
the they'll
He's-
pay him more.
He's super ballsy to say like a Hebrew prayer in front of like the Nazis or like do like a Jewish ceremony.
The Nazis
Crazy they let him do that.
for all the hating they did. They really just copied the Jews' swag there. I don't know why.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
did that.
Der
Yeah.
Fuhrer really wants the
Der Fuhrer
the
really-
word the word of God. He really wants it.
That
Well,
is
John,
a
what what
real-
was your rating?
Oh,
yeah.
classic out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
I like that rating.
I'll take
That's a
that.
good rating.
I really liked the car chase scene where they're like jumping around the cars and he climbs under the car. At like the stunt work they did on that, because there's like the CGI didn't exist then, so there's no way
Yeah.
to like comp somebody in or like do this shit. Like that was all some person, and even Harrison Ford in some shots hanging off of a moving truck.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah,
the coolest.
that's
I was
very
like, holy
dangerous.
fuck! If he slips, he dies. Like that guy's dead if he slips. It's sucked under a fucking like 10-wheeler or whatever.
Yeah, going into this movie, like I wasn't expecting, a car chase scene, the ship scene, like all of these like different like places. I expected it to be mostly just, like I guess in my head going into the movie, it was like Indiana Jones, the archaeologist is going in and he's like running away from boulders. Like that was the picture in my head, and that's what I expected the full like 2 hours to be. But it ended up being like
He's like
the
never
craziest over the top
Yeah.
like action ever.
He's like
Good.
never in like exploring like ancient ruins really, other than when he's in the
Very
Egyptian
well,
thing in the very beginning. That's the only
Very
two times.
beginning.
Yeah.
I think it
Well,
was
that's
paced
what-
pretty well.
I'm not
I
saying it
like
was,
that.
I didn't say that
Yeah,
was bad.
I
I
liked
said
it
you
too.
just don't realize. Most people think about it like that anymore, where it's like he's always in this like cave, like solving these puzzles and like figuring.
That's what I thought it was gonna be,
Yeah,
like,
that's
one
like
big-
not most of the movie. That's like only 2 parts really, and those are my honestly probably my favorite parts. Him being like clever and like solving these things, these like puzzles throughout to get to the artifact. But yeah, it's not the whole movie. There's actually a whole other plot with like the Nazis. It's definitely really the actual story of the movie I'm really into, and I think there's a lot of cool parts with it where they travel a lot. Like the movie doesn't stay in one place. They go to at least 3 separate countries. There's a lot and there's a lot of culture in it, which I think is fun to add to the movie. I also wanted to say how this movie tries so hard to make being an archaeologist look really cool.
I mean,
There is
it
an alternate reality. I remember thinking about majoring in archaeology like freshman year. I took one archaeology class. Most of archaeology
Did you have the whip?
literally all it is reading a bunch of shit and learning dead languages. And I was like, fuck,
Yeah.
I want to go dig shit and like
Well, that's
shoot
what
up
you do in the
terrorists looking for
classroom.
treasure.
There's a reason Indy doesn't mention all that in the classroom. He's out adventuring.
Obviously, once you
distracted
got
by
on the
the-
job site, you would have been solving puzzles like Indy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have got
That
your
and-
whip, of course, when you graduate that they give
I
to whip
remember
and hat.
there was a study abroad opportunity for that, but it was $3,000 out of pocket, and it was just to like go to Iraq for a summer. I was like, oh, I don't know, man. I can just dig stuff around. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about archaeology. It would have been cool, but like as a fresh, like
you could
having
find
taken
some,
one
some
archaeology
Nephilim
class.
bones.
Can't remember what the site was. I'll have to check. I probably have it like saved in like my old files. I'll have to see if I could dig that up. But
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
believe this movie like caused like a boom in either for the job or at least the education on archaeology. You know, like a
Yeah.
lot of people started studying it to try
And
to
probably-
either be one or just
It
because
definitely made
Indiana
history
Jones.
cool.
History will always be cool. Even outside of this movie, I will let
Yeah,
my
I
my
mean,
history
who
nerd
doesn't?
bias get in the way.
History is super fun, but
It's a
that
cool-
was one thing I'm like really into myths and stuff. So I thought like the little background. I don't know how true it is.
Yeah,
wasn't gonna
I
look it
was
up.
thinking like I feel like a lot of like the myths and like the different stuff in this just isn't true.
Yeah, I don't
But
know whether
I didn't
the
know. I
belief-
didn't look it up before this.
the ark got taken to Egypt. I mean, I do know a little bit about the fact that like the ark is missing. I know that's true to like myths and people like try to figure out where it is and stuff like that, or whether it really existed. But I don't know the theory of it being in what was the city called that was
Tanis?
swallowed
Cairo?
by the
Tanis.
Tanis. Or
Tanis.
something. No, they go to Cairo and it's near Tanis or Tanis.
Okay.
But I don't know about that city. I don't even know about the sack that they talked about where the Pharaoh attacked was it Jerusalem and then took the ark. I have no clue if that's real, honestly. I feel
When
like
did
it's
we
something I
have?
might have known when I was younger.
When did we have religion history? Was that freshman year of high school?
why-
Stuvek is probably pissed right now. We don't
They're-
remember
they're
this.
Why
serious
did the
with us.
scepter of
We
Ra
went to
factor
Catholic
into
school.
this like Hebrew tradition? Like I don't understand that.
Oh,
They're
I
saying
wanted
the
to bring this
Egyptians
up.
hid it.
That's
Wait,
where,
can
that's
I bring
where
this
they
up?
hit it. Yeah.
Okay.
What an
Yeah,
ineffective
it,
way
I
to
get it.
hide something because like it all right, so assuming they hid it and assumed they were going to stay around like the Egyptians, like someone was just going to remember it. Like they didn't do that every time they wanted to get in there, right? Like did you have to do that to unlock it or was that
That's
just to
the-
remember where it was?
That's the
No, look,
the
it's
fun aspect of it.
Look, I love the movie, and that was one of my favorite parts was in figuring that out. But while I was watching it, it did pop into my head. Why would they think about it from the Egyptians' perspective?
Well, also-
Why would they do that?
But
I think that building is also like submerged. It might have just been like submerged.
Yeah, well,
in
they didn't
sand.
know they were going to get covered in sand.
But also, didn't like
Yeah.
a majority of like Egyptian history take place before, like the whole arc stuff would have happened
Christianity. Well,
chronologically? Like,
And it
What
was
do you
like
mean? I'm
930
confused.
BC. That
yeah,
was
what do you
year-
mean?
and
they
you know,
both existed at
majority
the
of
same
the-
time, though.
yeah, but a majority of like the Egyptian, like like the pharaohs and everything was
Yeah.
BC.
That was around
But,
a lot
you know,
longer than you
whatever.
think. That was around a
Oh,
lot
it
longer.
definitely was up till like CE, like or like after.
Common
There's
Era.
a
But
lot of
yeah.
I know people underestimate how long that the Egyptian
There's
stuff
so
was
much
around.
Egyptian prehistory. Like there's
Yeah.
so much shit that goes back before anything is recorded, and they keep finding stuff
hmm
like that predates their oldest shit, and it's like kind of advanced. So it could not be the very start. There's actually a lot of there's a theory I heard about the Sphinx is that the Sphinx is a lot older, was found by the ancient Egyptians, and they carved the head down
Oh, yeah.
from something that was there before,
I've
which
heard-
is
I
cool
didn't
because
know
if you look at the Sphinx head, it's like way shorter than the rest of the body, so it looks like something was there.
They carved
first,
it
and then
out.
They carved it down, yeah,
Like
because it's a
some-
pharaoh
yeah.
head. There's a lot of cool
Yeah.
shit that like.
And it's missing its nose, ain't it? Like I believe
No,
that's true.
that's probably erosion.
No, I just wanted to mention that.
It was
'cause I-
probably the aliens that helped build the pyramids
the aliens.
Yeah, of course.
pyramids.
Yeah.
and the Tyrannosaurus rexes.
Of course. They carried the blocks. How else would you do that?
One thing, I'm with John. I've seen this movie tons of times, but one thing I forgot, and I didn't remember happening when I was a kid, was that monkey like doing the Nazi salute inside Sig Heil. I was like, wait a minute.
I forgot the monkey was a snitch.
The monkey's a Nazi.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh yeah, they're monkey buddy, yeah. And then I was like, oh my god, he's he works for Hitler.
Yeah,
Fuck that guy.
yeah. I didn't
And,
feel bad about that monkey's death.
No, that
That-
monkey
that was
deserved it.
really
That monkey
funny.
was an asshole.
That was
Yeah.
a funny interaction between that guy and the Nazi because the guy was like so like excited to like raise his arm, and then like the guys were like, yeah, Sig Heil. Yeah, they're just like this shit again. It's like we
Yeah.
can just say hi, man.
What was the weird Nazi dude's name?
I
Glasses?
always
I
forget
can
that
never
guy's name.
remember. I
Yeah.
just he sounds like a weasel.
Yeah.
Look it up.
And
Yeah,
I just wanted to talk about the part where he grabs the metal
Oh yeah.
and burns his hand. And I really like because I didn't remember how they found like one like how why did you pick it up and go ah and then throw it away? Like you could have just let it go. You didn't have to look at it.
It's like a cajillion degrees.
It was a prize. He didn't want to
who picks like metal up that's been sitting in fire and doesn't even like get close to it like a normal human? He just grabs it with his whole hand.
You just let it go. He grabbed it.
Yeah,
looked at it, went,
he was committed to it.
Yeah,
He would have grabbed it and then like pulled his sleeve over and then grabbed it. Like it
it's things like that where I think the movie is
and then he
trying to be
jumped out the
funny. Like
window.
it's
And then he jumped
intentionally
out the
being
window.
funny.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
It's
He
very
jumps
real.
out. He jumps out the window. Why did he do that?
He
He
jumped
wanted
out.
his hand in the snow.
There was snow all
Oh,
over the
did he?
ground, and he was looking for a pile, like something piled up. He could just
I
put
thought
it
that was
down.
gonna come back later because I didn't remember if it did or not, and that was how they were gonna find the.
That's how
The rest-
that's how they did it, because they mentioned that they only
No,
had
they
one
didn't.
side of it.
No, they didn't
Yeah.
because they just saw them digging it up. You don't. No, they just saw them digging it up, and that's how they found them. It didn't matter that was burned into his hand at all.
No,
They
they
said
said that that's how they
Yeah,
that's
'cause-
how they knew how long to put the stick.
they only had the one
That's-
side of the.
Oh,
medallion.
you mean for when they got it? I
Yeah.
thought that was how they were gonna get the other half. I don't know why I forgot. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, they only had that half because it was burned into his hand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes it make a little more sense now because they just found him by accident. I was like, wait, so it didn't matter that it was burned into his hand?
I did like the scene where I had known about this scene because it's like so iconic when he is supposed to have that showdown with like the big guy and he just caps
It's a
him.
sword.
I was pleasantly surprised. I thought that was in another movie, but I was very happy to see that. Like
That was because he was hurt or something
he,
that
he
day.
had
He was fed
diarrhea
up,
or like
dude.
dysentery or something. He was
Yeah.
like actually sick on set.
Yeah,
just
so they
didn't
just
wanna
changed
do
the
it.
whole action scene to just shot him, and that was way better. It was way more fun.
I think he improvised it like as a way to get off a set quicker.
Mhm.
Than
Probably,
they were
I don't know
They were
for
just like,
sure.
"That's sick. We'll leave it in."
It worked, but
It's very sick.
I wanted to bring up the part where right in the beginning where they're talking about how he's gonna be safe going where he's going, and he like takes out the gun. He's like, I'm not afraid. Wait, what is I'm cautious or something, and then he throws the gun into the
Chucks
bag.
it.
He just chucks it into the bag, and I was like, oh, well, he's not too cautious. I thought that shit was gonna go off.
Fucking revolver,
He knows it.
6-shooter.
It's cool to talk about how iconic the Scepter of Ra scene is too when he puts the light up and it
Yeah.
feels like he's solving it really because that's referenced in so many things now that you
There's
forget that.
literally
that's the
a puzzle
original.
in Uncharted that's like that exact same thing.
Is there really? I've never played
There's
Uncharted. I have
There's
no
so
clue.
many in these games where like there's so many like convoys where they have to jump from truck to truck and like fight people and throw them out, and then there's literally a puzzle where you have to put a staff in the ground and like match up shadows.
Well, I thought
it's
when he
also-
put the staff down, like it was gonna like show like some like like castle or something specific or like cool, but it was just some like random
mound.
like place.
A mound.
Yeah, just some random place. It just kind of threw me off a little bit, but
I mean, like,
It's easy to forget that this is what popularized that stuff though, like the Tomb Raider. Like you go in and like Assassin's Creed, where you have to like find like parkour your way through their graves and stuff to find ancient treasures.
Yeah.
Like this is what popularized that. Like this is what created that. I don't know about
Genre.
created, but popularized that genre. Yeah,
It's become its own genre. It's like really,
I don't know what
Adventure.
it's called or what you could
action
call it.
adventure. Shit.
Well, I mean, there's different adventure movies from like raiding
Yeah.
specifically talking about raiding
It's
like
like
a grave
archaeological
or yeah.
yeah, because like James Bond came first, and that's
Well,
obviously
there was
very different.
plenty of
that's
adventure
action.
movies that existed.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like, I just know that like this movie franchise was largely like not based off of James Bond, but it was trying to like parallel.
Well, he's
that.
clearly a
be a
James
little
Bond-esque character.
Yeah,
James Bond suit
Yeah.
like fit in.
I like got
His
there.
name's Indiana Jones. Like they clearly were just trying to pick the coolest name that someone threw out in a board meeting. And
Do you
that
know it was
it.
originally supposed to be like I looked this up before this. It was supposed to be Indiana Smith, and I feel like we changed history. Like a huge part of history changed by making it Jones.
Jones?
instead.
I think Jones was the better choice. I think it rolls off the tongue better.
well,
Yeah,
Sounds
Indiana
cool.
Smith sounds awful.
Indiana Smith sounds like a dork. So I wouldn't have liked him as much.
Indiana.
We didn't even
Smith
talk about. Okay, Joe.
Indiana Smith is the kind of adventurer that ends up getting stuck on a spike trap in the
Yeah.
in ancient ruin.
Get killed right in the beginning.
We didn't even talk about that student who wanted to fuck Dr. Jones at
yeah,
the very
she was-
beginning. She
really
wrote,
took the
"I
time.
love
Why
Why does
you."
every
on
girl
He was
want to
like, "This
fuck
bitch is
Indiana
crazy."
Jones so
He's
bad?
hunky.
He's the goat, dude.
He's
What are you
Everyone
talking
wants to
about?
fuck
Look,
him.
there's
He did-
no way that many chicks, especially back in the 80s, were taking an archaeology class. Come
you know
on.
why
That
they
was
took
the
the class.
30s.
They took the
You know
class
why
for
he took
him.
it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You're crazy because that class is probably hard as shit. There's no way they took that class. They would
That's
just
the boy. That's the boy. Don't.
When Indiana's the professor.
It feels like
Dr. Jones is in
Yeah,
the
when
office.
Dr. Jones is in the office.
they were, like I said, they tried as hard as they could to make archaeology as cool as possible.
He did clean up
worked.
super well when he was in class because I didn't even recognize him when they first showed him because he was like dirty, like swimming, like covered in smut and everything, and like so unshaven. And then they cut to him
distinguished.
like clean shaved with his hair slicked
Hair
back.
slicked
It was
back.
like,
Well,
wow,
he was-
shit.
I did actually forget to say this. Like the first 5 minutes, I thought it was super like funny in the beginning because they clearly don't show you him and like make
Yeah.
it like this big suspenseful moment, but not because it's like, oh, it's Indiana Jones, but it's because it's Harrison Ford. Like it's clearly like they're like oh, it's your favorite
There's-
actor from Star
Well,
Wars.
I thought it was like the introduction of like Indiana Jones as a character because this is like the first time
I
like,
would
you
agree
know,
with that if
this
you
character
like
that everybody knows. Like even if you haven't seen the movies, everyone knows. And now it's like
it didn't feel like
that's
the
the reveal
introduction
of
of the character though to me because like they didn't like talk to him or he didn't do anything. They just showed his face and it's like, well, they're just showing it's Harrison Ford right now. And that guy tried to pull it. Why did that guy try to pull a gun on him? Like I don't understand why he did that.
Which
and then
guy?
he just ran off.
He was
He
working
wanted
for-
to take the thing for himself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Well, they weren't there yet. Why would he pull a gun on him right
He
there?
was like, fuck it, I got it from here. Like,
I got this is easy. This is the easy part
Yeah.
right here. I also wanted to say how funny it was that the guy, he's like, don't step into the light, which that trap makes no sense to me. As cool as it is and how much they use it and stuff now, like, how would they get that to trigger off you blocking the light to the
Yeah,
trap?
there's so many. Like they have like gas powered spear guns implanted in the wall. It's like triggered by a foot pedestal.
But also, yeah, he I like how it was super clever. He realizes that there's like pressure plates in the ground to like step on, but then he immediately presses it and he
Yeah, and
only
stands
gets
over it.
he
Stands over it.
stands right over it and it hits the thing. And like when you think about it, you're like, that was kind of fucking dumb. Like he could have died. That could have
Yeah.
been the end of the movie. If that one's 2 feet to the left, imagine Indiana Jones just gets shot.
also, the plates were like a completely different color from the rest of the floor. Like they
They
were
were
super easy to see.
Well, once you call attention to it, but if like even in real life, if you were just like looking at that, you probably wouldn't have looked at the floor to notice
True.
that.
I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
would
if
be
I was
dead, but I'm
walking in
just
there,
saying.
I would consider where I'm stepping, and I wouldn't step
Well,
on the specific
yeah.
tiles that look differently.
Yeah, after you watch the movie.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you go in places all the
Okay,
time with
okay,
tile
fair
floors. How often are you like, oh no, which one's a trap?
I
like,
think you're doubting mine and Chris's awareness.
all right,
And
you
his
go.
overall
All
smooth.
right, you
Yeah,
go and raid.
you'd have stepped into the light.
Yeah, you go raid a temple, and we'll see when you get back how it went.
Do you guys know that the guy that goes into the temple at the beginning with Indy, that's Alfred Molina, who
That's Doc Ock.
That's Doc Ock, yeah.
That's Doc Ock.
Oh,
I
He's a
only
good actor.
I
love
only
him.
just now realized that.
You never realized that?
Yeah.
I felt it sucks so much that they killed everyone at the beginning because I kind of was like, man, I did wish he had buddies that like worked with him for the stuff.
Nah.
For some
He's
reason,
got-
I
he's
was.
got Brody and
They just be weighing him down.
It's that-
Oh, of
you know how
course.
many times he had to rescue what's her name? Like
Marion.
that, he would just been doing that the
Marion.
whole movie.
No,
Everyone would have just got
Marion's-
captured.
Why is
Marion's kind
Marion
of cool though.
Yeah,
why is
Marion's
the only
cool.
thing Marion good
I
at
fuck with
drinking
Marion.
though? Like, why is she so good at drinking and
No,
she's not like
she was
a...
beating those guys in the street with like a bucket.
Yeah, but she got captured. Like the scene you're talking about, she gets captured in the end. So-
she was smacking him on the head with a bucket.
Is
over and
there a
over.
scene where she's fighting and then doesn't get captured?
No,
I think that happens every time.
She hits the one. She runs into the room with the pan and then smacks the
That
one
was-
guy on the
that
head.
was
Nate,
great.
Nate,
That
are you
was
saying
Robin
you
was
wouldn't
great.
get captured by like 20 Nazis, all
No,
with like
I'm a-
guns and
no,
stuff?
no,
Like,
I'm
you're
like,
Give
getting
me a
captured.
whip and a
Chris,
revolver.
Chris, see, you
See.
made this about me. I'm a fucking animal. I would have just got out of there barefisted.
Okay, okay.
Don't put
I
me
know
and
the
Marion.
Nazis
If
in
know how to
you
beat 'em.
put me and Marion in the same bracket, you're gonna be disappointed.
But you give Marion a bottle of vodka. It's a different.
She's
story.
crushing me, dude.
Yeah.
They drank like
Really
20
good.
shots. I would have been on the floor, bro.
You give her like some piece of like a building, like a block of wood. She's knocking you out.
I forgot. What does she say in that scene when she's she's faking like she's super fucked up. It's something I'm guessing in their language. I don't know what they speak
At the
in
end or the
Nepal.
beginning?
When she's like, they're all like, oh my god,
Very
they're
beginning.
betting, and she goes
Beginning.
like, it's something with a P, I think. They reference that in so
Pistole.
much stuff.
Is it
Yeah,
pistole?
pasole. Yeah, it's like pasole. Or
Whatever
something.
that is in the
I don't know what that means
Nepal language.
in Nepalese, but whatever it is, I'm not trying to be
Yeah,
disrespectful to their
In
language.
Nepal?
Oh yeah, I think you might be right, but
No, I know that because
either
of an
way, they
Uncharted game.
that gets referenced in a lot of
That's
stuff.
right.
Like I immediately was like, oh yeah, they say that in American Dad at one point. Like that's funny. It is crazy to see how often this movie gets referenced.
Nepali.
Oh, well, there you have it.
Is that really what their language is called?
Nepali.
Cool
Oh,
language name.
There it is. I thought the one dude. I thought you go to Nepal and
Better
the
than
Uncharted
American.
mission, and
You
the
do.
guy speaking
Well,
Tibetan.
it's Tibet, I think.
Well, they
Or-
probably
no,
both.
it's
They
Nepal.
probably
It's
have both
Nepal.
languages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most people are bilingual outside of us.
True.
Outside of you.
Who needs two
they
languages?
They speak English and whatever else. They
Yeah,
got.
we speak
exactly.
American.
I already made that joke, John. I said it like under my breath right before.
Well, I said it
We do
louder.
it in America.
So it's my
Hey,
joke.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You did say it better.
There's in that scene, like in the bar, it's a recurring like visual motif. There's a lot of like really cool ways that they like show Indy, like him like being obscured in some way, like because he appears
With the
as like
shadows.
he appears as like a really big shadow, and like when he's leaving the bar, he's completely covered in shadow except for like the hole in the door, and you can see his eye through it. And then like in the desert, you see his silhouette against the sky as they're like digging the ark out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
really
cool
cool
shots.
shots in the movie in general. Like even in the desert, they do a lot. Like when they're digging, they have actually a cool shot of them just like digging, and it like you just see the desert in the background, and it actually is really beautiful. I don't know where they filmed that, but it looked really good.
I really like about this movie, like this era, you have to kind of remember that computers didn't exist.
So
in
pretty
any
much everything was
usable way.
practical.
Every effect you see, they did physically.
Not
It's really cool.
everything. There is one scene that made me laugh, like really early, like really close, like to the end. It was right before they went into the like the room of rooms where they show you where the other room is, and he throws the staff down before they go in, and they show you the staff falling. I don't know why they had to include that, but it's just a CGI piece of wood just coming down, and it's so funny. Like it looks so bad.
Didn't
It's
notice.
Can't
one.
be CGI.
It's 1 second. It's
That could
one.
be
And,
like
and
a-
the ghost too at the end.
I think it
Oh,
is because
yeah.
it looks pretty bad, but I mean,
What-
like you said, in 1980, like what could they do?
I
I don't know
don't
why
think
they
that
just
those
didn't film
are-
a stick.
I don't think that that's CGI. I think they're literally painting over the actual frames.
Oh,
Probably.
maybe I don't know.
Could
I
be
didn't
wrong.
look
I
into
know
it.
they had to do that for any movie before, like in the 70s. A lot of the old Star Wars ones literally will literally take the film and cut parts out, then film over top of it with a screen in the background so that it projects onto the whole. It's really like interesting if you're into like that
insane amount of work.
filmmaking.
Yeah, I should say if I'm making fun of it, like obviously they still put a ton of work into it, but
Oh,
that
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
change that sometimes it looks funny. So
Yeah, a lot
could-
of this stuff does look
it's not the
really good.
80s anymore. We can laugh at it.
That
It's
could
been
also
40
be
years.
like
Once-
a weird like Lucasfilm, because this is like a Lucasfilm. That could be like a
Oh,
weird
you know
made
what?
adjustment made later on in time.
Yeah.
last minute.
Yeah.
That's why I said they could have just not included
Yeah.
it. Like I saw him throw the stick in, and then it
How'd you
To the
watch it?
stick.
What did you watch it on?
I watched it on Amazon. I don't know which version I watched. but
Because I don't know if there's like a different version.
I didn't even
or
think about that
something.
either. There
Yeah.
probably is.
Yeah. That's a good call, John. I didn't even think about that. There
Yeah, that
probably
didn't
is
cross
CG.
my mind.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I did want to say too that Indiana kind of has like the ultimate Sigma move where he leaves Marion tied up because he wants to just go get
Yeah,
go get
that's what I mean. He's not
One of
worried
us
about
was
being a
So
good guy.
funny.
What a decision.
Yeah.
absolute just mind on the prize. Like
I think this
he
movie's
knows he'll
really
get women
funny.
later.
I think this movie's really funny because, like, at the end, like, they could have did nothing and they would have just died because they opened it anyway on their own. So if they just didn't go and fight them, they would have did it themselves. They like if anything Indiana did up to that point didn't really matter. Well,
Wait,
I
what do you
guess he
mean?
did have to. They were apparently too incompetent to find it, so they needed him to do well because they just chose to open it. It's not like Indiana convinced them
Yeah.
to
Mary
open
would've
it.
died.
Well, I mean, like,
She wouldn't have known to
That's-
close her eyes.
why would she have been there if Indiana wasn't there?
Well, they
They,
knew.
they were taking her regardless, remember?
No, they wouldn't have
I
taken
thought
her. had
Indiana was
she-
dead on the ship.
had she not? No, I'm talking like from the start of the movie. Like, had they just eventually found it, they would have found it, opened it, and died.
Well,
Actually,
but he
yeah,
wouldn't know where it was. So
That's why
Indiana
that's why I said that's the
Jones-
only reason. But I assume eventually they. Well, also if Indiana wasn't there, they would have just went to Marion or whatever her name is. Just pay. Honestly, Indiana just made everything worse. Thinking about it now,
he
'cause
made things
they would.
horribly worse because if
Yeah.
he didn't, they would have brought it back to Hitler, and Hitler would have opened it, and
And
World
he
War
would-
II never
Oh
would
my
have
God.
happened.
It's
Never
caused
would have
World War
happened.
II.
Oh, what the
Holy
hell?
God.
shit!
It
This movie
never
just
would have
got
happened.
canceled.
All of German high command would have been incinerated and burnt.
This is
Actually,
completely his
actually, you can
Who would
bla-
have known that Bellic was the hero? Sorry, John.
you
Go
can
ahead.
you can blame that more on Bellic actually, because he says like, no, we want to make sure
Oh,
that
yeah.
there's something inside of it first before we send it to
Yeah.
Der Fuhrer.
Yeah, Hitler. He was just making shit up on his way there. Like, but
Does this
yeah,
movie
when
take
you
place
think
before
about it,
World War II, or is
Not-
it during?
1936.
36.
that's I swear to God, I always make fun of movies for like putting the date and place at the beginning, but I was like I can't remember when this takes place, but by like halfway I was like, okay, mid World War II.
No,
I got that.
it's pre World War II.
Before.
All right, pre World War II. All right, so then it really is Indiana's fault. All he had to do was do nothing, and it would have worked out. But
It is weird how like all the characters kind of treat the Nazis as if they're evil, which they are, but the world kind of didn't know that.
didn't
at
know
that
that
point.
yet. They had no.
Well,
clue.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
getting
they didn't like
closer
them.
to
They
that
were-
point, though.
Well,
They were kind
didn't-
of annexing
didn't
other
like
countries,
them
though.
even
Yeah.
by then because of I mean,
Yeah.
they were fascist and like people knew that,
When-
and they were like, don't like them, you know, with the propaganda and everything. Not that
Was
they were
this
wrong
the same
calling
year
it
as the
propaganda.
Berlin Olympics?
I
I feel like that's kind of
no
when,
clue.
because they were like really, really racist against a lot of like the African American runners.
Yeah, Jesse
Yeah.
I think Bill Burr had a funny take on that when he was like, imagine the ride home after that Olympics. like, they were so hyped up going in, and then they lost, and it was probably just a quiet ride home.
Were you looking
But
something up?
I don't know what year was the Berlin Olympics.
It was 36.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
that's
Oh,
okay.
wow,
Okay,
Sam's
so yeah,
cool.
maybe
Good
they
shit.
were assholes.
He's
Damn.
on it. He's on it.
Sam's on the Olympics. He knows every year the Olympics happened and where
Hey,
they were.
almost archaeology major over here.
I was trying to
He
figure out
named
when they started doing fucked up shit, but it seems like mostly it started a little later.
It
So-
was pretty gradual, right? And then all of a sudden they invaded Poland. And it
I
was
feel
like,
like
oh, fuck.
I feel like most people probably thought Hitler was a dick, though.
Yeah,
Just
'cause,
from the way he looks
Yeah.
like a dick.
outside of
I don't-
Germany. Yeah.
I don't
'cause
think.
World War
I don't
One-
think. Well, obviously, we're not talking about Germany. Clearly, they fell for it. Clearly, they didn't catch him. They were like, he seems cool, you know. They wouldn't have voted for him.
yeah, because I mean, post World War One, like everybody else kind of put this government in place in Germany, and then the Nazis kind of pooped all over it and it got replaced.
well,
so.
Germany kind of got fucked after World War One.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm just
Rightfully
saying.
so.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
don't
mean,
know if Germany got
saying
fucked up.
right,
I don't
saying
know.
rightfully is kind of like fucked up because that's
don't know about
kind of what
that.
led to what happened next. You know.
They didn't even start the war, and they got blamed for it. They just happened to be like on the losing side because World War One was really about anything.
Don't lose,
Yeah.
punk ass.
Yeah, it was weird.
Try
to
winning
pin it-
next time.
They didn't like
Hey.
pin it on any other. It was pinned like entirely on Germany, and that's what like destroyed them, put them in this spot where like everybody was just completely dirt poor.
Look,
And then
just
it
Don't,
allowed it,
don't
like,
get into a world
hey.
war with the U.S.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Just don't let
Yeah.
it
and then
happen.
you'll
You know
be
what?
cool.
That's a good
Hey, well,
point.
that worked out for a lot of other places now. But
Hold on, you sank the Lusitania? That's where you fucked up, huh?
that's where you fucked up. To be fair, though, like after World War One, a lot of countries did a lot of fucked up shit. Like a lot of people just think about Germany, like
Japan, Italy,
because of World War Two, but Japan being one
Soviet Union.
of many.
arguably worse, yeah.
What was the group they made that wasn't the UN?
The League
Just
of
made
Nations.
The League of Nations that just made like pretty much the League of Villains. They just didn't want to call it that yet. Just did a lot of
like-
fucked up shit, and we're like, yeah, we're here to stop wars, and then just killed so many people and
So it
just
started by
enslaved-
Woodrow Wilson, one of the worst presidents ever that like nobody ever talks about.
Arguably.
He didn't even join, right? We didn't join the League of Nations.
It
He
was his
started it,
idea,
but
I
yeah,
think.
the Congress didn't want to join.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
thought it didn't do what he wanted. I don't know if it was like Congress wanted something they didn't get
I
or
think
what,
Cole's
but
right. I
they
think
didn't do
Woodrow
what we
Wilson
wanted.
it.
They didn't
Woodrow
do
Wilson
what we
wanted
wanted.
it, and it got shut down in like the Congress or Senate or something.
Yeah, ask Africa about post World War One and see what they think about it. It's probably not too. They don't, probably don't got a lot of positive opinions.
Yeah,
It
fuck
was
you,
wild,
Belgium.
man.
If Africa has a has a personality on its own, you can ask it. Don't think they'll be too happy about it. Back to the movie.
Yeah, I was like trying to figure out how to segue back
for a second. I completely forgot until I looked at your picture in the back and was like, "Oh yeah."
It was a really cool setting, I'll say. Just that era of history. I feel like it's common knowledge now that like the Nazis were really interested in like this old art, and they were stealing a lot of this like crazy
That's
art.
true. I didn't think of that.
That's a really cool like why the hell were why were they even like interested in all these like archaeological digs? They spent so much money and resources digging after all this stuff. Like they didn't just make that up for the movie.
Hitler himself was
that is a true thing,
extremely superficial. Yeah, that's why I said like that's why when you see Nazis in like media and they're like science, it's always like they were trying to create not zombies but like the super soldiers. I do know they had the super soldier. What did they call it?
Ubermensch.
The Ubermensch, yeah.
Ubermensch.
And they would try.
Yeah. Isn't that just
like anything.
the Nietzsche concept, or is that actually?
Well, Nietzsche's sister like took a bunch of his books and then like reframed them to fit the Nazi ideology. Like the Ubermensch is supposed to be like the guy post-religious human who like develops his own meaning and like pursues life on his terms. And then Nietzsche's like, sister or cousin was like, yeah, it actually is like white Aryan people, and that's what they are, and everyone else gets killed.
It's funny.
You know that's like interesting. Oh wow, me and John. No, John, you can go first. Well, mine's super segue. So
you brought up the thing about like super soldiers. This is like a fever dream of mine. When I was probably around the same time I saw Indiana Jones, I remember on the History Channel, which is like not a reputable source of like valid
What do you
history.
mean, Ancient Aliens?
Well,
did you watch it on Ancient Aliens?
I don't know if this was even real. Again, fever dream. But like it was about the Nazis attempting to create super soldiers, but their idea of a super soldier was a human ape hybrid.
Oh god.
And like they mentioned like some lady having sex with an orangutan. Like trying
That's
to
honestly like people, America has
maybe
done
Kanye,
things like that. Maybe.
Monkeys are pretty cool.
Monkeys are pretty
didn't hear him out.
So what I wanted to bring up, John, was like Norse mythology itself had like a lot of its like the history we know about it is so like we know really nothing about their mythology and their religious beliefs, basically because the Christian, I don't remember what time it was around then, they like persecuted all forms of like other religions, and so instead of like there was people that wrote them down, but to keep them they changed them to make them sound more like Christian beliefs. So most of what we know about Norse mythology sounds more like Christianity now than it used to be. Like I was learning that like hell didn't exist in the same way there, like in their religion that we believe. Like it wasn't like a bad place. It was just the afterlife. Like it wasn't a place for people to be sent to be punished. So that's actually pretty happens constantly throughout history. Is things have to be changed.
Like in the 900s, right?
It was a long time ago. Like who cares? It was same time. If it's past 10 years ago, it was all the same time.
That's old. That's not my problem.
Yeah, not my problem.
Like when Christianity was like so powerful, but also so like destructive.
Yeah, I do wish I had a better time frame for it because it could make it obviously more contextual. But yeah, they were just like trying to
the Dark Ages
push out any other religion, and that one was one of the worst ones because of where it was. That was practiced up towards like I can't think of what that area is called
Norway.
now.
Well,
Norway and all that.
The Nordic countries.
And even towards like the Nordic countries. That's exactly what I was thinking of. And and it was just so hard, like persecuted, that they had to change it. And now most of what's left of it isn't even the actual context that it was in. Like we know very little. There's like Jesus figures they use now. Like characters seem more like Jesus in their stories now. And like it's because they're just trying to make it more applicable. Same thing with Christmas. Like that's what Christmas is. Like
I'm interested to look that up.
Very
how would they know
about
How would they know that it was changed? Like, how would they know that there was like existed before?
There's inconsistencies. That's why they're between
okay.
the stories. Like, and obviously, if suddenly the inconsistencies make it seem more like
It's, like,
Christianity.
dated.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like up to this point, and then like 900 AD.
Depending
it
who wrote it.
changes.
Well, there's so little now too that they only have little pieces. Like, so a lot of it still, honestly, is just
That the
trying to think of a
lost
word for it.
history stuff, like
Very
when
interesting.
there's all of that crazy shit, like the Library of Alexandria, like all that shit that was
That's
there and
crazy to
burnt
think
down.
about.
Like
Mhm.
so much shit that is just lost.
They said that
to
set
time.
us back like over a century of knowledge, right?
Yeah,
The
there
burning
was,
of Alexandria.
I wish I remembered this better.
Should have put it
There-
on the cloud.
Some monk
Should have backed that shit up.
Practical.
copied over this book that laid out the foundations of calculus like a couple hundred years before Newton figured it out. It's like, dude, if we had calculus like 400 years before Newton, we'd probably be living on
Wow.
Mars right now.
Didn't
They
that-
probably
People,
killed.
people
they
are
probably
probably just
killed
trying
him.
to steal Newton's thunder. You know
that
what I
came
mean?
out of the Middle East,
We-
right? That was like Saudi
We knew
Arabia,
the world.
or-
The Egyptians knew the world.
I don't know about that.
Oh,
I,
you
I
mean
heard that it was,
calculus? I know algebra came from the Middle
yeah, it was
East.
how
that
I know
might be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a monk copied over it because he couldn't. He copied like Bible scriptures over it or something. But I don't know what. I'm pretty sure
hated
like
math.
he was just like, I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna copy over it. It's just gone. It,
Yeah.
it literally was calculus.
No
It's like-
more homework for anyone.
As actually
It was
very
actually
basically
someone
what
going
happened.
back in time and
Yeah.
trying to stop calculus.
That's oh my god.
We're in the third timeline, so it failed twice, and they were like, "I guess I give up."
I'm just trying to figure out how we got here.
That is true. We,
Oh,
like,
dude,
I-
it-
And
was-
honestly,
Take a break,
the
take a
jumps
break,
we're
take a break,
making
take a break.
aren't ridiculous, but we keep it's just like making them. We keep making leaps off of it.
The one scene that the whole movie I was waiting for was the evil hat dude to just like melt, because I've seen that scene 100 times despite never having seen the actual movie.
How fucking creepy is that guy? Also, like, what?
He's
a-
pretty
like,
creepy. He's
I
a
feel
creepy
like,
ass
I
dude.
feel like he was the only reason they were allowed to use Nazis, because they were like, he is so weird that
he just
no
looks
one is
so weird.
no one is
It's
gonna
okay
like
if he
him.
does.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no one is gonna
Nazi.
like him.
I don't know what else that actor has done outside of that movie, because I think he's really.
What else could he? What else could he be in?
Just-
Because they're just gonna see the
maybe-
Nazi.
maybe-
Once you play a Nazi, you're the Nazi guy.
like, typecast as being like a sort of like creepy kind of dude, but I don't know.
He did it well.
Yeah.
He creeped me
Also-
out. I couldn't wait for him to die.
There's
Also-
another one of those corridor digital videos where they like talk about the effects of how they made that, because that's not
yeah.
that's not all digital at all.
Yeah.
It's really cool the way they built like a prosthetic head and then added layers of shit. It was like
Interesting.
shrink wrap type material. So when they hit it with like a heat gun and it would shrink up the way that like skin would flake. Like it looks really realistic, like
Looks
for how it
good.
is.
And then just
The
all that
ghost,
footage.
the ghost didn't look as great, but the
It does
head
look a little,
melting
like,
looked
90s.
great.
There was
80s,
three
so-
three
Like-
heads that got obliterated. and,
Yeah,
like,
were those ghosts or was that? I thought that was supposed to be like the
Angels of
angel
Death
of
or
death
something.
or something like that.
that's
Like what,
that's the way I see it too.
yeah.
Oh, well, I thought there was multiple of them though, wasn't there?
Yeah, it
Or,
like
flew
split
around?
off.
That's why
but-
I was like, "Who? All right, that's it. All right, next theory we're gonna come up with. Who were the spirits? What is it? Come on, who do you think it was? Do you think it was the Jews that died on their way to Jerusalem?
Oh my god.
It was the Jews that built the golden calf.
I don't think they
Oh,
thought that much about
shit.
it.
Oh
yeah,
shit!
they were just
no,
like
they
God's
wouldn't be
ghosts.
inside the ark.
Yeah, but we
they didn't
did.
worship the Lord.
But we did. We thought that much about it.
I figured they would be entombed in the ark so that they, I don't know, maybe the
What
ark
do you
was
do? You think there
purgatory?
was any meaning behind the sand being in the ark? Because like, remember, that's all they got out of it. There was just
They
sand
crushed up
there.
the tablets. They said that.
Oh, did they?
The,
What did
like,
they
the
say that?
original commandments were crushed up.
They said, well, no, remember,
They said
Abraham.
what's his
It's the ones Abraham slams down and breaks.
Moses.
Remember?
Yeah.
Moses.
Oh, I'm an idiot. Yeah,
Yeah.
Moses.
Yeah, so they were already.
There's an
broken,
M.
so-
It's the same. But no, yeah, they weren't dust.
Well,
Broken.
thousands of
I didn't
broken
pick
and
up on
dust
that,
is
but that's
very
interesting.
different.
That they were the commandments turned into dust or whatever. That's cool.
I didn't. I don't. I mean, I'm guessing that's what it is. But
I guess it's
I
also-
didn't pick up on that. I don't
I
know
just-
how Cole
I
got
think
that.
it's
but-
also-
I think Cole just made that shit up, and we're all just believing him.
If you start treating religion as lore, it is really cool.
I think it's also
Yeah, no,
like
that's
a
why it's
sort of
fun.
thing of like it's not meant to be seen. Like, you know, your idea of what you think is inside is a lot greater than what's actually on the
Well,
inside.
that's what I thought, but then Cole had to shut me down. It was
very
like-
beginning-
I'm not saying it's fact. I'm just
They have
saying what
that
I
paint-
you said it
thought.
like it
Whole
was.
spitting the facts.
They have that
Goddamn.
painting, and there's like the rays coming out, and the guy at the table asks, like, "What's that shooting out of the box?" And Indiana Jones is like,
Lightning.
"Lightning or the wrath of God or something."
Yeah, he did
Yeah,
not give
fire,
a fuck. He
something.
did, he
No,
only
That's
cared
actually
about
something
getting it.
I
He did
wanted
not
to
give a
say.
fuck.
Is throughout most of the movie, Indiana Jones is like, yeah, it's bullshit. There definitely ain't nothing in there.
Indiana
Last second-
Jones
last
is a
second, he's
profound
like,
atheist. and-
last second, he's like, Marion, close your eyes. like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I wish they would have explained how he knew to close your eyes.
Yeah, I was.
I
gonna say
do
that too.
wonder
Why
that.
did he? Why
Yeah,
did he know
because
that?
the whole movie wrote on that. Like the only reason they lived was because he knew to close their eyes, and I guess
Yeah.
it's because he knew the lore or whatever.
No,
but,
Look,
like,
a lot
I
of
think
this
that
movie
makes
things
sense.
just kind of work out for Indiana Jones. If you didn't
Yeah.
know.
He has
You have to
the
think
best
about
plot
how-
armor.
How improbable those booby traps are at the beginning. Like, don't put your hand in the light or a spear will get shot at you. He probably figured it was like booby trap, like some bullshit. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe it'll like blind you. It's like some super like, reflective material. I'm trying to like canonize this, but
yeah, I think we're just supposed to just think like Indiana Jones just knows everything about this,
Yeah.
no matter
Yeah,
what
I mean,
the
it's a
situation
movie.
is.
But
Yeah.
it's funny. It's funny to be like, how did he know that? Like, where the fuck did he get that from? My favorite action scene, sorry, Cole, but is definitely the plane one where they use I don't remember what those planes are with the helicopters, and he fights like the really big guy. And the funniest part about that one for me is actually where the big guy they square up and he just throws a jab and he hits Indiana so hard that he just starts stumbling backwards so realistically, he just got his shit rocked.
That guy is
Just-
so disinterested with the overall goal of the
He was
Nazis.
just happy to
He's trying
fight him.
He just wants to
trying
fight.
fight.
Yeah.
That guy actually, he's not a Nazi. He's just some hobo that walked off.
That's like one of the
when he
crew,
saw him.
one of the crew members. He just
like,
wanted to fight
"Oh."
Harrison Ford.
No, he didn't
A
even work there.
challenge.
He's just some homeless guy, and he wanted to fist fight Indiana Jones.
he reminds me of
Shirtless, too. He made sure to take
Battle
his shirt
Beast.
off.
He reminds me
That
of
was-
Battle Beast from Invincible, where he's like, finally a challenger.
A challenger.
finds
Yeah.
someone.
Oh, that's definitely the most action set piece out of the movie because it's so funny because there's so much going on just to set up the big explosion at the end. Like, how did the fuel cap get knocked off the truck that then gets lit on fire that then blows up the plane? It doesn't. It's so Final Destination. It makes no sense. But it's
over the top.
it's just to be cool. There's just a bunch going on, and then
Then he
when
planned the whole thing.
I
He
like
planned
how
the
they're
whole thing.
sitting there fist fighting, and then he just ducks, and he just huh, and turns around and just gets destroyed by. How did you not hear it? Is he deaf?
I do like how they made it a point that Indiana Jones is just making it up as he goes along.
Indy does
he's
hit
just
it,
like,
he brings it up.
Your
He
shoes
brings it up.
untied.
Yeah.
But
at
that's
the
what makes
beginning
him
of the fight.
fun. That's definitely what makes it
really
so
funny.
fun. He one of my favorite
Fucking
parts
Jack.
is when they're like, we can't find him anywhere on the boat, and he's already swimming to the submarine.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts because that's just Indiana Jones. He's just a badass.
That was a funny part, because the Nazis were like, we want Mr. Jones or Dr. Jones or whatever, and he was like, well, at least you can do is give us the girl. You could take the Ark. And they were like, you make me sick. The Nazis weren't gonna torture and rape her too. They're gonna
Yeah.
do the exact same thing that they thought the guys were gonna do.
The French guy was the one that was like, she's mine. And
Yeah,
the
it was
whole
like-
movie, he's like, I only care about money and rich artifacts. And apparently this one chick for some reason.
Yeah.
I think he was just trying to screw over Indiana Jones. I think that was the only goal of it.
I think that was the point. Remember in the beginning, I think he was just trying to I think he's jealous of Indiana Jones throughout the movie. I think that's kind of what you're supposed to get out of it because he throughout the whole time he's like, "Oh, I got what was once yours once again," and that's what she is to him. Him just taking something.
That's his
from her.
motivation is just to get
Desperately
what
try to one up him.
Yeah.
just try to steal what
He's just a
Indiana
dick.
Jones has.
He's just
hater.
he's just
That's
a
a-
real
He is just a dick.
He's a hater.
Professional hater.
Professional
He
dick.
is.
professional dick.
He's like top 10 haters of all time. Dude. He found the Ark of the Covenant.
Bro, he even tried to
Hate
steal his
Indiana Jones.
swag.
He
tried
learned
to.
the language
Get
of those
Bayless
people in the
levels of
beginning
hating.
just to be able to.
Oh my.
Just to fuck
Screw
over
him over,
Indiana
yeah.
Jones. That is one of the most like iconic parts too, when he's running from the plane
yeah.
and they're behind him. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Like that's so
Yeah.
original. Everything tries to copy that now. It's so fun to go back and see like the original of these tropes
Yeah.
that you see all the time in movies. And I really love the part where the guy who never comes back into the movie is just like fishing, and he kind of wants to finish fishing before he starts it. He's like
Yeah, Indiana Jones is screaming at the top of his lungs, like
running
he's like
for his life, like hauling ass away from
screaming,
these
and the
Look.
dude's just trying to catch a fish. Like I love that.
He's,
And
he's
then
just
there's just a
fishing
s-
with a
and then there's
like
just a
piece
snake
of
in there.
yeah,
bamboo. That's gotta be
that-
so hard. Like,
Yeah.
He probably was waiting there for like 2 hours trying
Well,
to
that's
get
why he
the
didn't want to
fish.
leave. No,
And then he had
he-
his snake Reggie just chilling in the plane. Like,
just
That's
so
Reggie.
you know, that he doesn't like snakes, just to
Yeah.
establish that and he's not even that upset about it. He's like, "There's a snake." I would have been way more pissed. My favorite character is
And it's
Salah,
great.
the Egyptian guy
Oh,
who helps him
yeah.
throughout the
Yeah,
movie.
he's
He is
yeah.
a G. Like he's the exact opposite of Bullock. Bullock is a dick. Like everything he does is to hate, and Salah is the biggest bro in any movie ever. And whatever he asks for, he just does it, bro. He just hooks him up. When he thinks he's dead, he's super sad about it. Also, talking about the Sigma thing, Cole, when they think she's dead, they're just like tough. Another one down. Another
still gotta
one
get the
down.
arc.
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
gotta
Oh
get
yeah.
the
He's like, I'm sorry. Oh well.
She was cool.
It's like I blew her up.
They just blew her the fuck up.
Did they ever explain what happened with
no, they
Indiana
don't explain how
Jones
she
and
switched
her like years before?
Oh
No, I
no.
don't
He
think
probably
so.
Because they
probably
said
just left
he
her.
like they said he like fucked her over basically, or that's what she was saying.
Did
I
he
think he just
strand
left
her
to
in
do other
Nepal?
stuff.
That's why
I
she's
think
stuck
so.
in
Yeah.
Nepal. What
Do they
happened to her
explain it in
dad?
future movies
What
or
happened?
no?
What happened to her dad?
Well-
Yeah, I don't remember the other ones well enough. What happened to her dad? Did he
died.
I
die?
think he was old,
Like,
I think.
how did he die?
He's died.
In Nepal?
He was
He just
washed.
he went in
Well, he's
Nepal to
old.
die.
They just said he died.
He's old.
Well,
man.
I guess I'm assuming that well, that's why I was asking. I was like, why were they in Nepal when he died?
I think that was
were they
like
together?
his retirement plan was to do that bar.
Yeah, they like opened that bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucks with that. I'd do that too. That'd be hard.
Yeah.
Nepal bar.
Film Friends bar.
Film Friends bar in Nepal.
Probably
At
not
the
a lot
top
of money in
at,
that, but
at the top of Mount Everest.
We definitely got fans there for sure.
I think so. Last time I checked the metrics, Nepal was our biggest fan base.
Yeah. Shout out the gang.
Where all do they go in this movie? They go to Nepal. They're in America. I
Egypt.
think they start in South
Egypt,
America,
yeah.
right?
yeah, where
Egypt.
did they say in South America where?
I love-
They specifically say South America, like that's it.
It's
that's
probably
what
the
I thought.
Amazon. It's probably like Brazil or
Yeah.
something.
My favorite country, South America.
Fuck you,
Yeah,
Cole.
man.
But oh man, what was I gonna say? Yeah, like that's definitely one of my favorite parts, especially for the '80s. Is just you see a lot of cultures, and they're not. I don't feel like they're all just like caricatures of themselves. Like you actually see some of the place. Like
I
they're
know,
not just.
that was a criticism of I think at least a little bit this movie. I know the second movie got a lot of heat for being like
Oh, I could
a
believe that.
little bit like perceivably racist in some way in the depictions of
making
like,
them
the
seem
native
like
people. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't feel it really. In
I
this
don't
movie,
feel it
though.
in this one for
No,
sure.
I felt like a little bit like okay, like this is a little weird. Like
Which part?
like at the start and their view of like the general like Egyptian people later on. I don't know.
Oh, they're just,
a
like,
little
using
bit.
them.
I don't
Yeah.
feel like, but they should. I feel like they did it well. Where like Salah is one of the Egyptian
Yeah.
people, and all of his men are like good guys. But I think they did like a lot. Like it was just a poor area, and they took advantage of a poor area.
I think
Really,
you can tell
what
that
it's
this
supposed to be.
movie, like based off of how it like portrays like these different cultures, you could easily tell like it's an old ass movie.
Oh yeah,
And
I mean, I'm not saying that.
that's all I'm saying. Like it's
Considering it
it's
is
not.
the 80s, it could be a lot worse. I feel
Yeah,
like.
yeah. That's what I mean.
agree
Like,
with that. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
yeah, the people. It wasn't like all very clear caricatures of what they thought Egyptian people were like. They were just people. Like whether
Yeah, it was the evil Egyptian people were just hired by the Nazis.
To be
They were just
fair,
doing it
wait,
for money.
I don't know. I've never been. I don't really know a lot about Egyptian culture, and I'm just assuming that was not like super messed up portrayal of them. But
Yeah.
it seemed like just people, right? Like they
was
didn't
that in Egypt or was that somewhere else?
It's Cairo.
Cairo.
Okay, so
That's
that was in
Egypt.
Cairo. I wasn't sure if there was like a scene I'm not remembering where they travel from that place to somewhere else. But no, I think you're right.
No,
Yeah, they were in Cairo
And
majority.
they were in Greece, I think, right when they opened the Ark.
Yeah,
How the fuck did they get the? I was gonna say that.
took a
How
boat.
where did they end
Really?
up at the end there? Because I didn't. They just end up in like a valley, and they're like, "This is a good place to open the
'Cause
Ark
I
of the
think they were on
Covenant."
their way back to Germany, and when they hit land, they were like, "Well, we should open it first."
Yeah.
And,
This valley seems really good, right?
Yeah.
This
That
is
would
where
have been a very Curb Your Enthusiasm moment if they open it in front of Hitler and it's like, oh fuck, it's actually we got to go dig some more.
to push how unimpactful Indiana Jones was to the story. He pulls that rocket launcher on them, is like, "I'll kill you if you don't give it back," and then they're just like, "No, you won't. You're not gonna do anything. You're not a character. You don't do anything."
Nice plan, jackass. What are you
Yeah,
talking
nice
about?
plan.
You're not
We
gonna
won't
blow up your
We won't
girlfriend
shoot
and the
you.
Ark. Like, come on.
Yeah.
We won't all just shoot you at once.
Why do they?
That
Why
part,
do they
that
just
part is
tie him
kind of
up?
silly.
yeah,
Why
why
don't they just kill him? Why don't they just kill him?
I think Bellick or whatever.
And then the
wanted to
movie
flex
be
on him.
over.
He wanted to flex on him by opening it in front of him.
Yeah.
I think that's why.
I thought that was a thing. I don't really remember it. Like the reason I haven't thought about it until now is because I haven't seen Indiana Jones. But I'm pretty sure that's like a subgenre of like YouTube videos and lore. Is that the entire plot of that movie happens exactly the way it does, even if Indiana Jones isn't in the
Isn't
movie.
there? Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's like
he's
an
not.
actual thing.
He's
people
not very
talk about.
impactful to the story of this movie.
Okay, but if Indiana
Very-
Jones didn't
very-
go underground to get the Ark, then there would be just like a,
Well,
a killing
eventually,
machine underground.
well, you
know?
forget that this movie was a race. Like eventually, they probably would have found the Ark. Like
Yeah.
even if they weren't digging in the right spot, because
No,
it's
'cause
not like I said. That's why the scepter.
They didn't
doesn't
know
seem
where to
that
find
important.
the medallion though.
They did though, because they went to her. They
No,
didn't like
'cause
follow
Indiana
that guy
Jones.
They
that
followed
guy
him, though.
tailed Indy.
Yeah.
Did they say that? I didn't think they.
No, they showed
followed
it. They
him.
showed it.
Yeah.
He gets on the same
Oh,
plane.
that's right. I forgot
Yeah.
when he's like,
You don't know who he is, but
Hey,
they play
that's-
sinister
I-
music when
yeah,
his
I
eyes
forgot
come
about
up.
that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, so I guess they tailed Indy. But at the same time, if they just kept digging, eventually they would have found it. It would have just taken longer.
If you just dig every square inch on the entire Earth, you'll.
It was
eventually find it.
every square inch. It was like 10 feet away from where they were digging.
Yeah,
That's what I
really.
mean.
Like less than a
They really
mile. They
were.
did pretty
Indiana
good.
Jones had a scope, and he went like this, and it was right there. He was looking at them digging, and went like that.
When they were digging, they just like looked up the hill, and then there was Indiana Jones coming out
Yeah,
of it with
that
the
is
Ark.
really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Indiana
I don't know
Jones-
what their
Indiana
plan
was
was when they got
X-ray.
out.
Imagine, honestly, that plan. It makes so little sense because it's like you said. As soon as they walk out, they were right there digging. I think that plan was to get it done before sunlight comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were doing it right next to them. The action scene in the actual Ark area where they like have to get around the snakes is pretty good with the Anubis statues and stuff.
Yeah.
That was actually
yeah.
a very funny joke when he opens the thing, the where they have the Ark. The tomb, I guess. And Sala is the first one to see like the Anubis statue, and he screams like a little girl, and he's like, "Sorry."
Like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Why is his voice so goofy? Like, like
Who?
it's such an over
I
the
love
top
his
like.
voice.
He sounds like so
I do
proper.
too, but it's so
Sala?
goofy.
He sounds like so proper. I don't know how to describe
It's so
it.
proper that it's goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sounds like his Alfred kind of is like how he comes across. Like he talks so proper and like intelligent that it sounds
Yeah,
in
he's
like
very
written,
intelligent.
I guess.
There was a joke. This is so like this is such a like a weird moment in the movie. It's tough for me to segue from any point, but it's when they're on like the U-boat or the other boat, and she flips the mirror and hits Indiana Jones in the face, and then they cut to outside, and you hear him scream from outside the boat, and it's like a joke from a sitcom. Like it just had no
It's,
place in the movie.
it's so funny because he's screaming so loud.
It was
Yeah,
so
I'm not
You
sure.
can hear it all the way out there. That's
was like-
hilarious.
But I feel like
It was-
this. I
it
feel
was
like this movie had a lot of like those like little like almost like sitcom gags, like you said.
And they had that
throughout the
generic
movie.
punch sound effect every time like they
Yeah.
hit something.
Oh, I love that.
I
I love that
I-
that punch sound effect.
I love how inconsistent the gun sounds are throughout the whole movie. Like every time they shoot a gun, it sounds completely different. Like
Different guns.
Yeah, dude. I liked how he has like the like he just has the right cross. That's the only thing he throws. He does like the thing where he grabs their collar and just does that to everybody.
No, that punch sound effect is like perfect to me. It's like it got so much like impact to it.
Yeah, if you want to watch a movie that has awful ones, the first Thor movie is dude, that one's horrible.
Really?
I have
That
not
one
watched that in a
sticks out in my
very long
mind as the
time.
worst. They'll hit somebody with like a.
I never loved the original Thor, so
It's really
didn't like
bad.
it.
It's
I
really.
don't,
really
think
bad.
I've ever seen it.
I don't really like any of the Thors.
Don't watch them.
so.
Don't watch it. It's really bad. But the punch sound effects literally sound like, and it's when they get hit with like. It doesn't matter if they're punching or if they're hitting someone with something. It's like the
Punching
same thing.
Play-Doh.
It's so funny.
I had one more thing, like to show my reverence for this movie. I made the
Oh
Indiana
my-
Jones DVD my mic stand.
Oh
To
my
show
God.
my
To
love
show
and
how much I
respect.
love this movie, I used it as a stand.
Exactly.
You can't see it, but I'm
Pretty
filming
respectful.
in Cairo right now.
Yeah.
Well,
That's why
There's,
John was
there's a
late.
lot of love and respect here.
funny you ask, guys. I have Harrison Ford. Sorry, no. I don't.
I'll get it in
I
there.
have Harrison Ford right here.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Cyborg.
Are we
Cyborg
spinning the wheel
Harrison
for next
Ford.
week?
Now
or
that you
what?
got all of our
It's real
What's
time.
happening?
opinions,
Is it wheel time?
uneducated
I
opinions,
think it's wheel
it's,
time.
it's,
All
the-
right.
it's what you've been waiting for.
It
And
makes
listen, the
me
way this
wanna
wheel is
wag
gonna
my
work
tail.
from here on out, the person, listen, stop laughing. The person that picked the movie the week before will not be on the wheel. Oh my
Oh
god.
my God.
I'm never gonna go again.
Oh my god. Okay, I didn't actually have a movie selected.
Oh.
It's
I did.
not because I love this movie for any reason, but just because I think it would make for an interesting discussion. I'm picking American Sniper.
Oh,
he
we're
did it.
finally watching.
He
All right.
did it.
All right.
We're watching the political movie,
Honestly,
and we're gonna have a discussion about it.
after the discussion we had about this movie, I think this would be an interesting movie to talk about.
For a serious
Alright.
talk.
Yeah,
I mean, I've never-
Completely the opposite of.
of
Yeah,
Indiana
seriously,
Jones.
I haven't seen it in a
Yeah.
while.
I've
I think I
never
watched
seen
it like
it.
a year after it came
I
out.
remember not hating this movie when I saw it.
Oh,
but-
I remember,
popular,
I remember
right?
liking the movie.
Yeah, like
I
the
think-
movie's good. There might not be the best
think-
messaging, but
I think Chris will have some beef with Chris Kyle, but
Chris
I
doesn't
don't
like
know
other
about this
Chris's, of
movie.
course.
That's why. Chris
Yeah,
is
you're
jealous.
I don't know.
Chris is
He's
jealous when
jealous of
people
all of
Let's
Google
not get ahead
Chris.
of
He comes
ourselves.
up first.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
All right,
Okay.
see you next time.
We love you.
Thanks for watching.